what happens when you want your partner to come with you to a wedding or go skydiving with you, or
let's not put him out to pasture. He's 49, but he ain't like 89.
He might not want to do those things.
He might not want. I think
because we get to a point where we're trying to do our saga cruises. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to saga cruises at 50.
No, don't get me. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is. Wherever you are, welcome back to the Couple School podcast. Yes, I'm joined by the lady of self-love herself, Charmaine Lawrence.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Today's subject. I'm just going to read out the scenario and then, anyway. So, guys, I need your help. I'm 22 and my 49-year-old uncle is dating one of my best friends. Pause for your effect. Yes, so 49-year-old uncle is dating one of my best friends. She has dated a series of waste men our age and so finds the fact that older guys have their money sorted and know how to pay her attention is really appealing to her. My uncle is not long divorced and so can see he is enjoying having a relationship with someone younger who is very attentive to his needs. I find the whole thing cringe. How can I make it stop?
Well, firstly, you can't make it stop. Let's just put that out there. There is absolutely no way that you'll be able to make it stop. That's not going to happen. So you're just going to have to grin and bear it. It's personal choice. Go on. It's personal choice. She can't stop it.
It is, and my question is, who are they hurting? I'm on the fence with this one. I'm on the fence with this one.
I find this such a difficult topic because... what's the age gap? What are we looking at?
22 and 49.
That's a big age gap.
It's a big gap.
That's a very big gap.
Big enough to swim in. It's a big age gap.
I sometimes feel like for a temporary situation, it's quite fun and blah, 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 on both parts because, a younger woman is always going to be a bit fun, fresh, adventurous, makes you feel young and all that kind of stuff. And an older man will always make you feel like you've got someone that's protecting and providing for you and looking after you. And women love that. That's what we love.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what they would have in common. What do they have in common? Seriously.
The common thread here is the fulfilling of need. And this is where I get caught on the fence with this one because I'm in complete agreement with you when it comes to you doing or trying to make a long-term relationship last and you've got an age gap of that magnitude. When you project it forward, there's all sorts of serious complications and therefore sacrifices that one is going to need to make for the other. If you run it forward from the 22-year-old's perspective and put a 10-year picture on it, in 10 years time or within that 10-year period, she may or may decide that she wants to have kids X, Y, and Z. Is he necessarily going to be in a position or want to do that at 49? When I think about myself and project that forward, unfortunately 49 isn't that far away from me anymore, but when I project that forward for me, the very thought of being a father to a 1-year-old at 50 literally makes me feel a bit ill. And it actually was one of my deal breakers even when Karen and I first got started. I said to her, look, I've got no right to tell you can't have kids because I've already got 3. But I will not be a father at 50 to a 1-year-old and walking into primary school at 60. That's not me. I'm not doing it. So when I project it forward in that respect, there's that hurdle. Then there's a hurdle of marriage because when you've hit an age of 49, even for myself here at 41, is it 41? What year is it? 2022? Yeah, 41. Nearly 42. Even at that age. There are so many things that when I was 22 I wanted to do that now no chance.
Yeah.
Even though the basic things like raving, I hate raving. I didn't really like it back then when I had to do it. Now, no.
Yeah, no, I think age gaps can. I'm in an age gap relationship.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not that big. But even in a gap of my, which was ours, like 9 years. So even for a 9-year gap, there is noticeable difference about where you are at that point in your life.
Oh, 100%.
And so I feel like anything more than that, I don't know if we would make it, because it's a struggle even just going through some of the things that I'm ready for that he might not be ready for, or he's still in a certain phase that I'm not in that phase anymore. Like all of that, it kind of it tussles with your you know where you're at and how you feel about each other. So in this situation, I feel like on a temporary basis, yes, it's fulfilling need, but on a long-term basis, you need more than just that little need, that little tick box, which is, okay, I've just got divorced and now I want to have a fun, adventurous time with you. But then what happens when you want to just chill and she's not ready to do that?
There's all sorts.
There's going to be loads. Like, I don't know.
If I think back to me at 22, I had too much energy for my bones. Like, I couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
You know, like every weekend I was out.
Yeah. It's the same for females.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's restricted to men. I think like I was joining the 22-year-old females in parties and stuff.
Yeah, the 20s are for you finding yourself or having those, making the mistakes that you make in life. Like, those are what the 20s are for.
Yeah.
So for me, like, this idea that, you know, everyone should be settled at 20 or 22 or 23, I don't necessarily think. I think that's the time when you start developing those things, and if it works out, then it works out. But I just think that's the time when you are exploring, are seeing what you like, what you don't like. And of course, there's this narrative that the older man is going to look after you, and he's going to, you know, take you out, and he's going to fly you out here, and he's going to do all these things for you. But what happens when you want your partner to come with you to a wedding or go skydiving with you, or
let's not put him out to pasture. He's 49, but he ain't like 80 now.
He might not want to do those things.
He might not want. I think
because we get to a point where, you know, we're trying to do our saga cruises. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to saga cruises at 50.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm looking forward to all of it. Like I genuinely believe I'm an old soul. So I've been an old man for a very long time. So when people look at me and go, "Oh, you're grumpy," I'm like, yeah, but I'm kind of happy that way. Like I get that, and I completely agree. I'm just saying, don't put the man out to pasture. He's only 49. You're ready to sign him off and send him off down the river now. No, there are going to be issues on both sides, and I think you're 100% right. When you're looking at something in a very short-term basis, the needs are actually cohesive. Like it works. You know, it's stroking the guy's ego because, you know, he's got this young girl that's all over him and this, that, and the other, and energetic and doing things that women that are of his own age probably wouldn't be as adventurous as that in the bedroom anymore, or as kinky or as freaky in the sheets as that anymore. You know, because as we grow older, you know, we're grown. You know, and I can see the appeal for her because, you know, when at the age of 22, when I think about myself and most guys at the age of 22, you know, settling down is the last thing on your mind. You know, like they're still in there catching notches on the post kind of phase, and still trying to work themselves out. So the money's not quite sorted, the situation's not quite stable, and the places that you're going to are of like-minded to another person of your age. And I think that's also the attractive factor for both sides, is that each one brings the other one out of their comfort zone and introduces them to something new. Because you imagine the young guy putting on baseball caps, and we see them being cliche from movies now, but the older guy being dragged out to raves and parties that he wouldn't necessarily have gone to, and listening to and being down with the kids, so to speak. And then also for her being brought into a more sophisticated restaurant, wine bar type scenario that guys at her age wouldn't take her to because they don't have that acquired interest or taste yet. But the minute you start putting a relationship cap or hat on that, you inevitably inherit issues. You inherit problems, and it all gets a bit problematic. So, yeah.
I also think, though, an issue for me is not necessarily age gap. It's the fact that that's my people. Like, uncle, you couldn't find someone else. Like, you have to be with my bestie. So me and my bestie can't sit down and talk about our experiences anymore because her experiences are with you.
Sorry.
So do you get what I mean? Oh, your uncle really put it down last night. Like,
Yeah,
that can't work.
I get where the cringe word came from.
Yeah, like that's uncomfortable because that's how we talk. That's how females talk. We share notes. We want to know, what did you do that we didn't do? Maybe we should try that. We can't do that. You can't talk to me about your uncle. I don't want to know what my uncle's doing. That's weird. Oh, your uncle's got so much stamina. Like, no, thank you.
It was really throwing it down last night or threw me around. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know your uncle was so strong. You know, it's like that's the thing which I'm like, that's just not cool. If you want to explore and stuff like that, then I get it. I get, like, you know, things change, and you want different things, especially like going through a divorce when you're older. You're like, okay, cool, I get it. Things change. You want something a little bit different. You want to have different experiences, so you tend to date in that area that you're looking for. But my friend,
yeah,
that's not okay.
That's a bit mad, because then you start looking at it and go, right, well, how long have the girls been friends? How long have you been watching her like that? And that starts to paint a bit of a gruesome picture, or grooming picture, should we say? I think outside of that, I think I kind of hear where she's coming from in terms of she's probably now thinking that she's lost a friend, because when inevitably, what's most likely is that this relationship is going to not necessarily turn sour, but definitely fizzle out at some point in time as the two of you sort of realize your disconnect. You know, she's kind of caught in the middle because this is her uncle and her best friend, and so, you know, who gets the friend? Sorry, but like, I feel for it in terms of going, right, well, how can you stop it? I completely agree with Charmaine. There isn't anything you can do to stop it.
It's already started.
I think if you try and stop it, you will end up being the bad person in it, and either one or both sides will hate you for it, and you will lose one or the other, if not both. I think, unfortunately, you're going to have to put some earplugs in and just sort of, for lack of a better phrase, ride it out. I don't think you've got much choice in that respect. But I do think you should probably have some words with your friend from now, to say to her, look, not that you're not cool with it, but let her know that you're concerned that your friendship may be at risk as a result of it. Also speak to your uncle along the same veins, and probably tell them both that I don't want to hear about any of your highlights, definitely, or the low points, and remove yourself out as the confidant, so to speak, because knowing inside secrets about people in general, it can be quite fun, but knowing inside secrets about people that you're related to or that you care about puts you in a position where you may feel that a sense of responsibility, where you feel like you have to act on it, or you have to do something about it, or you have to say this to somebody, which means you're going to breach someone's trust, and then inevitably you end up putting your own friendship at risk. So
I mean, I think the friendship will take a different turn. Not necessarily that they're not friends, but I don't think they will be as close. I think that's just a natural thing. I think that's how it will evolve.
It's never going to be the same again.
Yeah, because that's just what it is. Like, I think at the moment, because it's already started, you can't stop it. But I would have had, for anyone else whose situation is like similar, literally my uncle asked me for one of my friend's numbers, and I said, absolutely not. That is not going to happen, and don't ever ask me that question again, and do not go and talk to her. End of story.
So I'm just playing that scene in my head, just like.
It was.
How did he just walked up to you like, yo?
No, we were all out. We were at the park. We were doing a family day at the park, and my friends were there, and my family were there, and he was like, "Oh, your friend, she's single." I was like, "Do not ask." He's like, "Yeah, but you're grown women." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a no." But I think I would feel the same about my brother dating my friend.
Yeah, I couldn't.
So for me, it's not even just about the age gap. For me, it's a lot to do with the fact that it's family, and I think also big gaps like that. Not to say they don't work, but there is always, do you have the same interests? is that for it to be a long-term situation, you have the same interests, the same values, you enjoy the same things, do you understand what that age gap is? Because sometimes people pretend that, age is just a number. That's not true. That's not true.
It's not true when you're talking about a long-term thing.
Yeah, it's not. The age plays a part, experience plays a part, and so lack of experience and a lot of experience, it can be challenging.
Yeah, I mean, taking it outside of this situation, let's play about different variables here. So let's flip it around.
Okay.
So it's not the 49-year-old uncle; it's a 49-year-old aunt.
I feel exactly the same. It's actually, the thing is, it's more acceptable when it's the older man. When it's the older woman, I don't think it's deemed as acceptable. There would be a lot more outcry, it being a 49-year-old woman. For the guy, everyone would be like...
I was waiting for that because I put myself back, and actually I can't put myself back in that age group. I won't say precisely 22, but there was a scenario back in the day of myself and an older woman, probably similar, probably about 46s, I think, thereabouts. And there was general applause and adulation really at that point. I think it's exactly the same thing. I think for me, the differentiating part here or aspect is the fact it's the connection. It's the connection. So it being the person's auntie or uncle and their best friend. I think if we're looking at this completely separate as in just a 49-year-old person and a 22-year-old person and them coming together, I think the same rules apply, but it's less traumatic, so to speak. There's less fallout because there isn't the other person caught in the middle.
Yeah. But I mean, age gap relationships, they're difficult. And people that say they're not, I don't know where they're coming from. They are difficult.
People that say that they're not are people that have either never had one or watched one from afar or have had a fling. Yeah. People that are actively involved in them, and there's a significant age gap, and I don't consider your age gap as a 9-year one. I think it's prominent, but it's not what I would call significant. Because you're still inside of that 10-year bracket, so you're not like a whole music genre away from each other. These guys here, like, I don't know what was in the top of the sports when he was 49, but I can tell you, the 22-year-old grew up with the internet, and the 49-year-old didn't. Yeah. When he was at school, there was chalkboards, not interactive boards. So that, like, there's a like, he didn't have. Think about it, didn't have internet. He didn't have internet. No, I know I didn't have internet when I was growing up. He didn't have internet when he was growing up. So there's all of these cultural things that you're just not going to line up on. And then you project it forward and say, you start talking about the subject of, do we have kids? Do we not? Do we get married? Do we not? Even down to holiday choices. Like, if I think about at 22, the idea of going on a holiday that was similar to an 18 to 30s holiday was appealing. Like, it was appealing to go rave all night.
It's never been appealing to me.
Play games and what have you play with the population at night, and then wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do it. And I remember when I can't remember how old I was, but must close to that age. Like, we used to go on road trips. Like, we'd start on a Friday, there'd be a car convoy of guys outside, like 10 to 15 guys, and we're off. Go to Cardiff, Bristol, Nottingham, Sussex, wherever. I haven't got the energy, and even when I think about it, that makes me want to yawn. Like, I haven't got the energy. Like, I just don't have. I don't know if it's I don't have the energy or I don't have the interest. I think it's probably a combination of the two. But my head's in a different gear. Yeah. Completely different gear, and objectives are different, and the consequences are different. I don't suffer from hangovers. I never have done, but I get more tired now as I've got older, and I've had to realise that I need to dress it down. So I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think although my gap is not big, there's still noticeable things. Like, we didn't have mobile phones when we were in college.
Yeah.
Like,
we had a pager.
We didn't have a pager. We went to the telephone box. That's
No,
what
no,
we
no.
went.
I had to go to the telephone box to retrieve the
To
message.
page
So the pager used to send you a message that someone had left you a message.
Yeah.
So people used to call and leave a voicemail, and then it would beep on your pager. They'd tell you to go and dial this number. So you had to go and find the phone box, to go and listen to the message, and then you could reply to it if somebody else had a pager. Then you could reply to it, and it would be so. We worked out that in our school, like me and my friend Wayne used to have the same pagers, like. and we leave messages for each other. But we worked out that the phone box in the school used to be one of those phone boxes where you dialed the number, and it would connect to a period of time, and then you're supposed to drop the money in for you to be able to talk.
Yeah.
But of course, we're only retrieving messages, so we used to just go to the message, dial the number, and it would last long enough to listen to the message and then hang up. It was free.
We used to call the telephone boxes because we used to get, the telephone box used to have the telephone numbers on it. We used to call the telephone boxes. It was like, I'm going to call the telephone box at this time. And so you would go to the telephone box and wait for the call to find out whether or not she could come out to play or not. Like it was that.
I tried to explain this. Sorry, this is completely off track. I tried to explain this to my son a little while ago. My son's 14, so trying to explain it and getting him to it, he laughs at the past, and I'm like, to the point where I want to punch him sometimes, because I showed him an SVHS cassette player. So when I first took out the tape, he was just like, "What's that?" And I was like, I'm a Blockbuster kid, so I'm like, this is back in the day, like when we used to hire movies. This is what they used to come on. And he looked at it and it's like, okay, you can see him trying to. I like, behave yourself. We're going to fall out. So, and my mum still got an SVHS player.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to show him was back in the day when we were in sixth form, we got taken to a television studio. Do you remember the show called The Mag?
No.
Right. So it was a talk show called The Mag way back when, and we got taken. We got invited onto the show as part of the audience for one of our lessons. And I've got it on tape. So me and my friend Wayne was on there as well. We had the Nokia 364, whatever it is, the change face Nokia back in the day. So we had one of those. So I remember us going into the show. We were trying to position it on your belt so that it would get caught by the camera when the camera's coming. So like we're doing this, so trying to get it in shot. Because I bought a face specifically because I'm going on the show. So the phone's a different subject. So, but anyway, so I was showing him this, and so I was trying to find the bit where I was in there, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "No, you have to fast forward it to get to it." And he started laughing. I was like, "Shut your mouth!" Like. He's like, what do you mean you can't do scene selection? No, there's no scene selection on an SVHS. So we watched it through, and the bit that got him was, I said to him, right now, see, when it's back in the day, to be courteous to people coming behind you, you rewind the tape. And when I said that, he fell on the floor in bits. And I mean, he was in bits. He was in hysteric laughing, face red, eyes popping. Kind of laughed, like he just couldn't get it. He just couldn't get it. And the reason why I bring that in is because what you're talking about here is the equivalent of from him to me. Mm-hmm. That's what they have there.
Yeah.
They've got 15 years difference. I've got 14 years difference between, not even 14 years difference between me and my son, but 14 years from where he was born to now, and showing him things that were about at the time that he was born.
Yeah.
And they're just worlds apart, massively worlds apart. And all jokes aside, I mean, if either of you are watching this, on a serious note, all banter aside, I think you really need to be clear with each other as to what this is, and where you're at, and not allow either one to slip into a state where they're expecting something more than what is actually on the table or capable of giving. And if you are attempting to do this as a long-term relationship, then you need to have serious conversations between each other now, I think, to lay that on the table so you understand the road ahead. Because as much as you can map it out, there are going to be things that you have, that obviously there can be things that in any relationship that you haven't thought of that come about. But I think the need for planning ahead for the two of you to even stand a remote chance at survival is massive. Is massive, and you're also going to have to educate those around you and be prepared to hear some opinions. And I've never been one really to say, right, well, other people's opinions, not that they don't matter, but they certainly shouldn't take a precedent part of whether or not you do something or not. That decision should be yours. But I think you need to be ready for the fallout, because there are going to be some people that think that what you're doing is just unforgiving.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's a lot. For me, I just kind of I feel exactly the same. I feel like if it's just for fun, it's just a temporary measure and just something that, you're both engaging in just because that's where you are at the time, I just think it's just not worth it. It's not worth the fallout. It's not worth, your best friend, your niece. It's just not worth that. And unless it's something that's worth fighting for and a long-term situation, I just don't see the point of it. You could find anyone to have fun with. I just don't think it's necessarily the right decision to do for a family member, with a family member.
No. And I also think for the uncle and the best friend, bear in mind your niece and the best friend, because at the end of the day, they are at the tail end of it, and them writing in now, it's sort of it's highlighting how unhappy they are about the situation. That, by the way, is it's a window, cracking a window or the glass, whichever way you want to do it, as to how I think or predict the rest of the family are going to react if from when they find out. But you've also got to bear in mind that it's not just the two of you in this relationship. It's a three-way, because she's caught smack bang in the middle. She could lose an uncle, could lose a friend. I mean, it's an awkward situation for her to be in. And so I would urge that whilst this is going on, whilst as I said, my warning went out to her earlier on to say, right, well, you need to remove yourself from the situation in terms of confidant to either side. I think for you two involved in the relationship, you also need to be respectful of her and remove her from your situation. So don't go knocking on her door for advice or a shoulder to cry on if things aren't necessarily working out. If they're broken up, that's a different scenario. I think she'll probably welcome you with open arms. Yeah. But whilst it's in transition or whilst it's in transit, I don't think she's your person. And I think in fairness and respect to her, I don't think she should be. So please, I'd urge you to bear that in mind.
Agreed.
Bear that in mind. But in general, as you said, if we're talking about relationships with an age gap, they vary as we say. So you've got, if you're talking about an age gap that's a couple of years, that really doesn't make any difference whatsoever. If we're talking an age gap that's similar to what Charmaine's got at home, then yes, it is. I think it's, as I said, it's prominent. I don't think it's significant because you're not of the same space, but you are of the same era, and so the conversations are on the similar sort of level. You're going to have to pay attention to some details. There are going to be some things that are different, and there are going to be some differences that you're going to have to work your way through, both in understanding and promotion, and how you articulate yourself and how you think. There are going to be differences there, and you're going to have to be aware that there are differences at all given points.
Yeah.
I've coached some people where there is an age gap that's similar to yours, where you're talking about 10 years, and the relationships have fallen apart just through misunderstanding and miscommunication, because how someone addresses one thing at 20 is very different to how someone hears it at 30. Because someone that hears it at 30 is hearing it with 10 years worth of experience over the person that's broadcasting it at 20. So the both of you need to be very aware of yourselves and the distance. When you start bridging anything above 10 years, like these guys here are nearly like 15 years, you're heading towards 2 decades. Like, you're light years apart. Like, as I said, you're talking differences from pages to mobile phones, Blu-ray to streaming. It's that kind of distance. And it's a very difficult space to navigate.
Yeah.
And some would query as to whether or not it's worth it. So yeah. On that note, that's time. Thank you so much for writing in, especially the guys that wrote in for this scenario here. Really appreciate you taking the time and for sharing. Thank you guys for watching, subscribing, supporting. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the button. It's, I don't know, somewhere on the screen there. And also don't forget the bell somewhere. That gives us notifications. If you're following us on Instagram, on Instagram or any of the podcasts, thank you so much for, I don't know what they call it, subscribing or...
Yep, subscribing, following.
Okay, subscribing seems to be the common name, so yeah, that one. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for supporting. That's us out for this week.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week. Oh yeah, sorry. Don't forget
Tuesday.
couple school after school Tuesday, 8:30.
Couple school after school.
Yeah.
8:30.
This one's going to be an interesting debate.
Join us.
Yeah, we had record numbers last week. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. So yeah, record numbers this last week. We're looking to increase on that this week. So let's see what's happened. Let's go.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.